drop into coverage. I think they create a lot of turnovers because they can rush 4 and get enough pass rush so they can drop 7 in coverage, and they're in all the lanes. And Raekwon's good as I've seen as a linebacker playing the quarterback's eyes and getting in throwing lanes, tipping balls. And anytime you tip a ball in the passing game, it's typically picked.
Tony, as Clemson's success has risen year after year, how do you think your recruiting has changed?
Well, the reason that Clemson has risen is because of recruiting and the culture. And we've been able to attract the right kind of young men into our program that fit. That first question I had about Coach Sweeney and what he believes, the vision of our program, and they live that every day. And then the winning takes care of itself. So I think we focus more on getting the right guys in the recruiting process, because over the last couple of years, our brand has grown very, very strong nationally, and we can attract the best talent in the country. But talent's not the only thing that wins championships. You got to have character. So we got to make sure that we get the right kind of young men in our program so we can continue to stay on top.
Do you feel like your recruiting range in terms of geography has changed at all?
A little bit, yes, sir. You just look at Christian Wilkins. He's a guy from up north, that came down because he was attracted to what he saw on TV. And once he stepped on campus, he felt it. It wasn't just something that we preach, out of our mouths. We actually lived it. And then you look at Scott Pagano from Hawaii. We got guys from Florida. They got Hunter Johnson coming in, in a couple of weeks from Indiana. So our footprint, is growing a little bit. But we still want to focus on, that 5-hour radius, because we want guys to understand what it means to be a Clemson Tiger, and then we go supplement with some of the best talent.
Do you find that you guys are going head-to-head with Ohio State more and more?
At times, because Coach Myers, I guess his connections down in Florida. You see those guys down in Florida a lot that you go head-to-head, and because our footprint has changed a little bit and we can expand out, we are going a little bit head-to-head. I know that we recruited Tyquan pretty heavily out of North Carolina. That's like we recruited Gurley. Michael Hill, guy that starts for him right in our backyard. They beat us on a guy in our backyard. So you are seeing a little bit, not quite as much, but I think over the next couple of years, as they continue to have the success they're having and we continue to have the success we're having, you'll see more battles in recruiting.
There's obviously the cliche that games are won the closer you get to the football with your linemen and that kind of play. It's possible this game, just because of your receiver core, because of how you want to attack them, because of their secondary, might kind of blow up that cliche because it might actually be decided on the outside or downfield in that matchup.
I think that eyes follow the football, and so I think you're going to see balls in the air on both sides. You're going to see competitive plays, and we know we got to win the competitive matchups, but it's still going to come down to the trenches. When you get to this portion of the season, having an opportunity to play in the playoff and potentially for a national championship, you've got to be able to win in the trenches, and it's going to be a battle. And really, it's every matchup counts. Our line versus their line, our backs versus their backers, our wideouts versus our secondary.
Who on their line specifically jumps out at you, their defensive front?
Or
is it the fact that they roll 6 or 8 guys through there?
6, I counted about 10.
Yeah.
They got a bunch of them. But, I think Tyquan, number 59, is probably the heart and soul of the leader, the most experienced guy. You see him, he's a matchup problem, and they can play him on both sides, right and left, so he can get on your left tackle, your right tackle. And then, Hubbard's playing some good football. Might not quite have the numbers that some people expected, but he's very, very disruptive. And then, 77 and 86 do a really good job inside. And then they got a third down package where they bring Bosa inside and Holmes inside. And then they got some young guys, 53 you see in there. 67 I thought was very, very disruptive. So they just got a ton of guys, and they all do their part. And the thing that I respect about them the most is they're very, very well coached, very, very disciplined. They're never out of gap, and if they do happen to get blocked, they get off of blocks quickly. They play with their hands, so you can tell that they're playing young guys, but those young guys are taking the coaching, and it gives them the depth. And so when they can change up their structure, bring speed on your inside, on your guards, even at times put a fast guy in the center in their eye package, they can be very disruptive.
Tony, talking to Coach Shiano about Deshaun Watson, he said one of the things that stands out about him, he's had 15 picks this year, but he's bold enough to try to throw the ball into tight windows and stuff like that. How do you judge that as a coordinator of the risk-reward that he brings, I guess, naturally to the position?
Well, Deshaun has that it factor, and that's what makes him special. He's confident in his ability. He can make every throw. He has confidence making every throw. And we challenge our guys to make the competitive plays. There's a couple situations where he probably wants a couple of those balls back, and everybody's focusing on the number. If you go back and break it down, there's probably at least 3 to 4 that were tipped by receivers that were right in the hands, and he did force a couple into some tight windows. I think of one that sticks out in my mind is Louisville. He hit it on the back shoulder. He usually gets that on the front shoulder, and it's a touchdown, but he just has the it factor. And one thing about Deshaun is you don't want to, tell him back, scale him back anything at all, because that's what makes him special.
Is Deshaun as good this year as he was last year?
I believe so. I believe he's better. Obviously, people are going to focus on the interceptions, but to come back under all the pressure, all the scrutiny, to go through a little bit of adversity, to respond to the adversity, to play your best football down the stretch, to allow us as an offense to expand, to be able to do more things because of his mental ability to control the offense without us having to check out a play. So I definitely think that he's better this year than last year. And I think, he gets a lot of slack because of some of the interceptions, but, we're an aggressive offense, and we're going to throw the ball down the field, and we throw a lot of 50-50 balls, and defensive has made some good plays, but I think he's playing better football than he did last year.
Whether it's in college or in the NFL or at any level, you said the it factor for a quarterback. How important is that for success? I mean, is it, because I think the it factor you're talking about, yeah, he can throw, yeah, he can run, but there's something else, right?
He has a confidence, about his ability, confidence in his performance, but it all goes back to the way that he prepares. And I've said this over and over. He prepares like a pro. He prepares like a coach. Every time you see him walking through our building, he's got his playbook in his hand. And he takes meticulous notes. He rewrites his notes. And so because of his confidence in his preparation, he can go out and he can play free. Not many people can fool him because he's prepared. And I think that's what gives him that it factor. And then he's got a story. Everybody's got a story, but he's got a story with his past, his upbringing, a little bit of hardship that's kind of given him that edge, but also kept him humble. And so he's able to bring all of that together to be who he is. And I got to thank him because he's made me a better person. As a coach, to watch a young man at his age, the way that he prepares, it challenges me every day to make sure that I'm on my P's and Q's, because I know when I come into that Monday meeting, if I haven't studied the alignment of the feet of the safeties to know which way they're dropping in coverage, Deshaun's going to point it out. So that's just the type of young man that he is. And then to graduate in 2.5, 3 years on top of that and all the pressure is just an unbelievable young man.
He's got a lot at stake for his future, in the NFL. You think he's up to that won't phase him in the playoffs?
Oh, there's no question. He's not focused on the future. He's an ultimate team guy, and he understands too that he's got some added motivation after what happened the last 2 years. He feels like he should have won a certain award, and so he's going to come back and prove everybody on the field. And then I think the thing he said it the best is he wants the trophy that nobody votes on, that you got to go earn on the field. So he's focused strictly on Clemson Tigers and helping these young guys fulfill something that we didn't get done last year.
What do you think? Can you say about Mike Williams and what he was able to do this year to come back from what he came back?
Remarkable. Just remarkable. You're talking about probably the scariest thing that's in the mind of any football player, and that's breaking your neck, and being close to potentially being paralyzed and never walking again, nonetheless play again, and to come back and came back even better than he was before he got hurt. And we knew that he was special, and we had said it because we were confident that he was the best receiver in the country, coming in the last season before he got hurt, and then he comes back and he's even better because he's more hungry. So it's just a testament to who he is, what he stands for, and just how important it is for him to play the game.
Most of the lists I look at list him as the #1 wide receiver prospect in the NFL. If you could scope the wide receiver for the NFL, that's about what you'd have.
That's about what I would picture would be Mike Williams, and we've been very, very fortunate to have some really, really good receivers. Just look at Nuke Hopkins, Sammy Watkins, Martavis Bryant, but I think Mike is the complete package. Each of those guys had something different. Nuke was just the ultimate competitor. We call him Nuke, but DeAndre Hopkins was the ultimate competitor with great ball skills. Sammy was the freakish athlete, and then Martavis was just I've never seen anybody 6'5" run as fast as he is. And then you look at Mike. Mike can do a little bit of everything that all those guys have. He's quicker than you think. He's faster than you think. He's bigger than you think, and he's got unbelievable ball skills.
Tony, I don't know how much you guys go one-on-ones in practice, but you have a few defensive tackles who are 350 pounds and I guess have 20% body fat, which we all can aspire to have. I was just wondering, what's a guy like that? How does he change the game? And Ohio State obviously recruited him and wanted him pretty bad, and they kind of have their differences with their defensive tackles where they use ends and move them inside. Correct. Just wondering what it's like to face each type of tackle.
Oh, no question. The big guys inside, it really just depends on the size that you have at center and guard, and obviously we have some pretty big guys at guard. So there's times where we can match up one-on-one, but you're always conscious of where that big fella is. So you got to create double teams. So I spend a lot of time at night, getting ready for practice, just to figure out how I'm going to go against Brent Venables. And not only do you have Dexter to block, not only do you have Christian, but you got the scheme as well, and as aggressive as he is. And then, where it gets tough is you're blocking a guy like that, you're blocking a guy like that, and then all of a sudden you mentioned it, you come in and you get into second and long, third down packages versus Ohio State, and they got Bosa and Holmes inside who are defensive ends, which change the speed, change the length. But our practice field is what prepares us, and really what has propelled us to where we're at as a program is because we feel like it's harder on our practice field than any type of game that we enter into because of the talent that we practice against.
Tony, you guys have played a lot of very good defenses. Have you seen anybody that can even compare to Dexter from a physical standpoint in terms of maturation at his age?
You know, the one guy that I look back to that many people may not remember was a guy named Melvin Ingram that played at the University of South Carolina. It wasn't quite as big as Dexter, but he was an unbelievable athlete, played inside. You know, he's the one that I think is probably the most disruptive and dominant that I've seen compared to Dexter. And I think Dexter's just only going to get better. You know, another year in our program, another year in the offseason, you know, more knowledge about the game. But, you know, he's just one of those guys that's a freak of nature. But what makes Dexter special, I think, is he has that it factor, too. He's a very humble young man. You know, he's all about the team. He loves to work. And that was what makes us better. And I think that's why, you know, we're in the position that we are, because our offensive line may not get the credit because we got the unbelievable skill guys. But the difference in the last 2 years is we've been pretty good on the offensive line, protecting the quarterback, being able to run the football efficiently, and it all goes back to what we got to practice against every day.
Tony, what, if anything, is unique about, I guess maybe because they have three of them really good, their corners. Is this one of the better groups that you've seen?
No question. I think collectively the best secondary we've seen all year. They're very long. They can run. They're very confident. You know, they isolate them. They play a lot of man coverage. The guys will get up in your face, bump and run. You know, Hooker's as good as a safety as I've seen, and you know, we've seen some pretty good ones in our league at Florida State, but I haven't seen one that covers as much ground on that back end as he does. So collectively, definitely the best secondary that we've seen, and they don't ask those guys to do a whole lot. They just rely on their length, their speed, their instincts, and they just let them go play.
That press quarters is becoming a pretty popular defense, but I'm wondering, have you seen, is there anybody in your conference that plays it? Which teams, I should say?
Pittsburgh plays it. You know, Pittsburgh plays it. I'm trying to think. NC State, you know, does a little bit of the four-man, the quarters, the press coverage.
What's the key to making it work?
It's the competitive plays. You got to make the competitive plays because what that structure is built to do. Now Pittsburgh's a little bit different than Ohio State in that, you know, Ohio State they use their SAM, you know, in coverage some, whereas in Pittsburgh that SAM is a box fitter, so it's strictly zero coverage across the board. But you know, the big thing is making the competitive plays because they're going to stop the run and then they're going to get you in situations where they're going to make you throw 50-50 balls and make you convert routes down the field, and you just got to be able to win on the perimeter. That's the key.
So you mentioned Hooker being the most good. How wild is it that this is his first year starting?
I know that's crazy because preparing for this game, you want to make sure that you check all the boxes, that you cross-reference everything. You went back and watched some of the games last year, and I'm looking for 24, and I don't see him. I'm like, golly, where's he at? Was he hurt or something? Then you find out this is his first year playing, but just an unbelievable talent. You can see that he's got, you know, speed that. I don't want to clock it because I don't know how fast it is. But then he's got instincts too, and then he makes plays on the ball, and they put him in position to let him roam around and let his athleticism take over.
What's going to happen then when you have a safety who can cover that much ground and a quarterback with a big arm who's not afraid to throw it down the field and take a shot?
Especially to a guy like Mike Williams.
Hopefully, we'll convert some of those competitive plays down the field. But obviously, you know, the thing that we pride ourselves on offense is not being one-dimensional. And so everybody talks about Mike Williams, but a lot of people have forgotten a little bit about Artavis Scott, who needs one catch to be the all-time leading receiver in school history in 3 years. So he's caught a lot of balls. And then you got Hunter Renfro, you know, who really elevates his game in the playoff time. And then you got Jordan Leggett. So hopefully it's going to put them in a situation where they got to figure out who they want to defend, what they want to take away, and then that gives us something, you know, offensively, and we just got to figure out what that is and then try to exploit it.
Do defenses struggle to figure out how to cover Leggett and how to match up? Do defenses struggle how to figure out what to do with Leggett and how to match that up, or do most teams defend you guys?
You know, each team, I think each defense plays to their strengths. You know, so whatever they feel like they're built to stop, they're built to stop the pass, and they're going to figure out how to mix up coverages to try to confuse the quarterback, but then also, you know, give help with the safeties to whatever guy they think is the most dangerous, whether it's Mike, Artavis, or Leggett. And then teams that are built to stop the run, then it's hard for them to match up across the board. So it's going to be a good challenge. I'm looking forward to it. Got a ton of respect for Coach Fick and Coach Schiano and what they do and how they put their guys in position. And it's two of the best teams in the country, and it's going to be a fun matchup.
Tony, what does Dabo like to work for?
Oh, it's unbelievable. You know, first, my relationship is is unique in that I started as a player for him. He came in my senior year and coached me as a receiver. And then after I left college, I went into engineering, still was a mentor to me. And then when I decided to make the transition to coaching, he's one of the most influential, people in terms of giving me guidance from a career standpoint. And so, I look to him like a father. So my relationship's a little bit different. But, he's a guy that doesn't micromanage. He holds you to, he sets the standard. He lets everybody know. He makes sure he's very, very detailed and meticulous, make sure everybody understands what the vision of the program is. And then he holds you accountable, doesn't micromanage. And what I love about him is he doesn't take himself too seriously. He understands that, yes, we have a high-pressure job, with a lot at stake. But at the end of the day, we're not judged by the scoreboard, so to speak. We're going to be judged by an eternal scoreboard. It's really going to be how do we develop these young men while they're under our care.
When you bring that up, Chad used to talk about how he loved working for Dabo because he was allowed to do his job. Correct. There was not a sense of, everything has to be, everything has to be double checked. And there's like this. When you use the word micromanagement, I just found that interesting. In terms of everybody has a different way of doing their jobs, but correct. Each one can work. Correct.
I think you've got several different models in college football, and Coach Sweeney's model is unique, and I think it stems with it starts with the people and the process. Not the process first, it starts with the people. If the people are happy, if the people understand what the vision is, then they're going to make the process work. And so he doesn't feel like he has to sit there and tell us exactly what he wants. But then also, too, we got a lot of continuity on our staff. So I know Coach Sweeney. I know what Coach Sweeney likes. I know what his expectations are. I value his opinion because he's an offensive guy. He's been at two places, two of the best places, Clemson and Alabama. He's got a very, very long track record of doing what's right. So, I always value his opinion. And then he's going to come in and say, hey, these are the things that I'm seeing. But a lot of times we're on the same page. We kind of see the same things because I was trained under him. But even when Chad was there, he didn't micromanage Chad. He let Chad run the system. And then when he felt like he needed to give some input, he would give some input.
Tony, you say Ohio State's defense is like dead. They kind of really stop the run first. Is this a game where it could be on Deshaun's shoulders again when they get through 50, 60 times?
It's going to be interesting to see, how they're going to defend. Now, Pitt was fully committed to stopping the run, and that they played they played a true Sam linebacker all game. Whereas, Ohio State mixes it up. They bring in three. I think it's Arnett is his name. They take Worley out, and they'll leave Worley in even in some third down situations. So I think that they do a great job of stopping the run with their box players with 6, as opposed to where Pittsburgh was more getting 7 and 8 to the box. When you had 6 with a 6-man blocking surface. So I think this game here is going to come down to, yes, we got to run the football. We got to be able to block the 6 guys in the box. And then anytime they try to run the 7th defender, just like Pittsburgh, we got to make them honest on the perimeter.
What's Deshaun Watson going to be like as an NFL quarterback?
I'm hoping, he idolizes Tom Brady. I'm hoping that he ends up like Tom Brady, a guy that just is the epitome of what you look for in a quarterback in terms of preparation, focus, attention to detail, winning on the field, winning off the field. But I think that people are going to be surprised, when they get Deshaun Watson, because I think there's a lot of people that don't know who he really is, and once they get to know Deshaun, they're going to see that he's going to be the great face of your program. Of your franchise. He's going to win on the field. He's going to make people around him better. He's the ultimate competitor, and he has the it factor to be able to lead your team championship.
And he will embrace that at the next level.
I believe so.
Because that's sometimes when you have a franchise, especially, has been losing. If you're going to take a quarterback like that, it's not just a guy who's a great player, but who's going to be the face.
Correct.
And he can handle all that and embrace that.
And I think so. And I think the last 3 years have been great preparation, being at Clemson, with the rise of the program and having an opportunity to be the face of the program, being, esteemed as one of the best in the country, having an opportunity to experience the Heisman ceremony 2 years in a row, and then still being able to focus on everything else. So I think he's got the ability to compartmentalize. He knows when it's time to have fun. He knows when it's time to work. He understands the responsibility of the position that he's in. And he's growing every day, and I'm excited to see what his future looks like.
You went right to the comparison to the greatest quarterback ever, huh? That's pretty good.
Well, I know that he really looks up to Tom Brady, and he really models his way of preparation after Tom Brady, and I've even heard him say and use Tom Brady's name. So that's really where that came from.
He runs a little better than Brady. Is that
just a little bit.
you've scaled that back a little bit this year? Is that by intent or just kind of
Well,
the way it went down? And
I think this season was different than last year. We had to create an identity, for this unit. Obviously, Deshaun is a great passer. I think the early games in the season kind of dictated differently than it did last year. Obviously, we know that any time that we can gain an extra hat with him running the football, that's a benefit to us. But then also, too, you got to look at what the defensive structure is and see that do you gain an advantage. And I think people spent a lot of time this offseason studying, what we're doing on offense and said that, okay, the key to them is to stop the quarterback run and make them make the competitive plays down the field.
do you think he looks at himself as a dual threat? I mean, Tom Brady being his guy, how does he view himself?
I think Deshaun views himself as a quarterback. I think that he's an unselfish guy and he'll do whatever he needs to do to help the team win. But first and foremost, I think he views himself as a quarterback, and it goes back to the way that he prepares. And if you just look at how our offense has progressed over the last 2 years, it's all because of the trigger man and his ability to control the offense. I think a lot of times, people get caught up on tempo and how fast we play, and they don't recognize the subtle things that Deshaun does in moving the back around, changing the protection, alerting his receivers of the routes that he wants them to run. So you're just seeing those things as a quarterback, starting to truly emerge for Deshaun.
Do you guys see this as some sort of redemption match from the last time you guys visited Arizona?
I think that we pointed out to our guys that we know the feeling we had last time we were in this locker room, and we understand that it was the little things, that kept us from celebrating the way that we want to in this locker room. So I don't know if it's as much redemption as, the focus that we need to experience the joy, winning in this stadium. But at the same time, too, we understand that we're playing a very, very good football team, and it's going to come down to the little things if we want to have that experience in the locker room that we didn't have last time.
How do you prepare differently for those little things?
It's just the attention to detail and just asking everybody to give a little bit more. One of the analogies that I love about Coach Sweeney is he'll come in and he'll ask the guys a question and he'll say, raise your hand. And guys will raise their hand. And then he'll ask, an additional piece of that question, and you see everybody's hand raised a little bit higher. So why didn't you raise your hand as high as you could the first time? So it's just that little bit extra, that 110%, because that was the difference in the outcome last year. It was about 5 plays. I remember a fumble exchange at the mesh point between Wayne and Deshaun. They've done that all year long, balls on the ground. We overthrow an open receiver on Hunter Renfrow on a sprint out that we've hit that, 100 times throughout the course of the season. So just having those guys dialed in and focused and not being complacent, understanding that the little things are going to make the difference this time around.
Are you surprised at all? Some people don't seem sold on Deshaun as an NFL quarterback.
It's not my job to convince people what to think. They got to do their own research. But I think as the process goes on and people really do their research and they come in and they get to know the young man and they test his knowledge of the game, they watch him perform under the test that they have to measure whatever they want to measure for that. I think people will be surprised at what they find out. We see it every day. So we're used to it. But it's not our job. They'll have to make their decisions.
Tony, in the winter or spring, is there any advantage to doing another sport as opposed to just doing off-season conditioning?
Coach Sweeney's always been open to allowing guys to be multiple sport guys. We've had guys play basketball. Luke Hopkins played basketball his first year there. DJ Reader, big tackle that's played with the Texans, he played baseball his first year. Kyle Parker was a dual sport guy. Spiller and Jacoby Ford were track guys. So I think there's advantages to it, and Coach Sweeney obviously promotes it. But at the same time too, in the off season is when you win football games and when you build your football team. So you need those guys to be around for the conditioning and really for the mental toughness that you need to build to bring that team together for the cohesion.
So it's the bonding more than the physical.
The physical, you're trying to make, and you're dealing with some of the best athletes in the country, and so you're talking about gains are going to be very, very small. A lot of these guys, they come into our program. You talk about Dexter Lawrence. 6'5", 340 pounds. There ain't a whole lot we can do with that. We can't add any size to that. So you got to push them physically to get the minimal gains that you can gain. But the biggest thing is to create that cohesion and that and just that team bonding that you got to have at this level.
How often have you?
I need to move on. I'm so sorry. Okay. That'd be great.